My name is Pollie Bristow. I'm from Darlington and have been a member of the club most of my life, not the early part. My father was not a golfer, and we lived on my grandfather's farm. We learned to swim in Black Creek on the other side of the Montclair Highway, which abutted my grandfather's farm. But my friends that were members of the club learned to swim here in the swimming hole at the country club here in Darlington. We have a cabin on the creek, and we used to have a rope tied to a tree, and my girls would swing on the rope and fall into the creek, and we had a raft down a few feet away, and they would get up on the raft, and we did that every Sunday all summer long. That was what they loved to do, swimming in the creek. It was so cold. If you were hot, you would go in and you would be refreshed the rest of the day because it was so cold. My husband's father, in 1926, with a group of friends, decided they needed to have a country club in Darlington. So all of this land was farmland where they raised cows at the dairies. And there were no houses anywhere beyond the highway out there. And they started the club in 1926, and he was a member all of his life. He lived to be 91. And my husband was a member all of his life. He lived to be 93. And I'm still a member. I don't golf, but I enjoy coming to the club for different occasions and lunch with friends. And we've had a lot of things going on here at the club all these years. Well, my very first memory is a wedding that I went to the Baptist church for the wedding and came out here for the reception. It was the Demaris Peterson wedding, and I had a brand new pink evening dress to wear, and I thought that was wonderful. But the club then was pine paneling. It was real dark and dreary, and it was kind of hard to decorate, but they used to cut trees down, small saplings, and bank them against the wall, and with flowers and smilax and a lot of candles. It looked pretty good, but it did not look like it looks now, which is quite an improvement. But I came to many other wedding receptions out here, and in fact one of my daughters had her reception out here. My second daughter got married at where we live now, and the club came over and catered and decided they wouldn't ever do that again. It was too hard to move everything, the tables and the food. But we've enjoyed the club for many, many occasions.
Miss Pollie, you have a great gift of being able to paint and create beautiful artwork. And I know many of your pieces are displayed here at the club. And you also have been commissioned to do a Centennial piece for us.
Yeah.
So just talk about your involvement as really the Darlington Country Club artist.
Well, there's some other art out here by other artists, but I do have about 9 or 10 things out here. And I have almost finished the Centennial painting of the golf course. It's kind of hard to do the golf course because you don't have too much to do. You have a few sand pits and the greens and lots of trees. So I tried to make it kind of interesting with color instead of just making it. It might not look like a golf course you would want to play on, but after seeing some of the pictures and going to St. Andrews in Scotland, I thought that was the ugliest course I'd ever seen. So I hope it'll be all right. A long time ago, people gardened and had beautiful gardens and roses and camellias, and we had a lot of flower shows out here at the club. And they had judges and gave awards, and the flowers were in a single glass vase, and they were judged, and they were beautiful. And they were very plentiful, and the names were very long, and they asked me if I would write the names on the place cards in front of each one. Some of the flowers had 26 letters in the word, but I did finish, and they gifted me with a box of candy for my hard work. Another thing that, before we had food service out here at the club, several couples, Ellen and Boo Baker, Finley and Albert James, Albert and Lola Coxill, and Bill and me, were asked if we would cook dinners for members since we didn't have food service. So we did. We cooked steaks and salad and baked potatoes and bread and dessert. And we called the people, and we would get good crowds to come. But after a few months, we got tired, and we decided they needed food service. It was kind of hard, but it was fun, and we enjoyed doing it. There were some other occasions here. Governor Carroll Campbell wanted to have an event. He was running for re-election, and so Bill and some other men planned it and decided to have it here at the club. And he came in on a helicopter and landed in the front yard there. I don't think it was a big parking lot at that time, but he landed there, came in, and they had dinner, and he talked, and he was getting ready to leave. Upstairs, they were having a Halloween costume party for the children, and this was when the club was rebuilt, and he was getting ready to get back in the helicopter and to go back, and Bill asked his aide, said, "Where's he going?" He said, "Oh, he's going back to Columbia." And Bill said, "No, I don't think he's going. You tell him I want him to come and meet my grandson." So I've got the picture today of little Damon, who was 3 years old at the time, and Governor Campbell, and he's got on his tiger outfit. So he did stay and do that. But when I was in high school, we didn't have many places to go on dates. We'd go to the movie or maybe get hamburgers at a drive-in. And everybody parked here at the country club in the parking lot. And everybody knew everyone. We'd say, "Hey, how are you?" and wave and speak to everybody. Everybody knew the cars. And the police would drive out occasionally, no lights or sirens or anything. And I think our parents felt like it was a safe place to be. And I think they've done that for years. They might still do it, I don't know. One Halloween, we were invited to a party out here, and Ann and Jim Hunter were two of the hosts. And Bill and I went as the White Owl and the cigar. That was real popular at that time. He was a cigar. He looked just like a cigar. I made his outfit, and I had on a white evening dress and feathers. And I looked kind of pretty, but he looked like an old cigar. When he took off part of his costume, he had on a brown shirt and brown pants. And then when people wanted to know who won the prize, they said, "Oh, they won the prize." And they said, "Well, he's got on a brown shirt and pants. What was he?" They didn't know. They hadn't seen him before. But during the evening, we had a covey of witches to come. And they were little ladies, and they were cackling and doing their hands all these ways and walking around bothering people and talking to them. And we didn't know who they were, and we thought maybe they weren't invited to the party. They were crashing the party. So that went on, and really it was the best thing of the party, you know, those ladies. And this was so funny. I found out later that my mother was one of the ladies. And I didn't recognize her, and she kept bumping up into me to say something. And when I found out, I said, "Oh my goodness." And Frankie Belk Harrison was one of the others. So they had gotten together and decided that would be their fun thing to do.